The golden halls of Zephyr's royal palace shimmered under twin suns. Thousands of guests stood in silence as the High King rose from his throne. Today was not a normal day. Today, peace between two great species was about to be sealed with a marriage. Trumpets echoed across the marble floor. The royal announcer stepped forward, his voice trembling with excitement. By order of His Majesty, King Zephyr IX, the Princess Virel of the House of Lumara shall be joined in unity to Captain Elias Drake of the Human Alliance. The hall erupted in whispers. Some cheered, others gasped in disbelief. Humans were once enemies. How could their princess marry one of them? Princess Virel stood tall beside her father, her silver eyes glowing like cold fire. For a moment, she said nothing. But then, as the king turned toward her with a proud smile, she stepped forward, her voice cutting through the noise like a blade. "Father, I will marry anyone. Anyone but the human." Gasps filled the chamber. The musicians froze. The king's proud expression turned to stone. "Repeat that," he said, his deep voice trembling between anger and shock. "I said I refuse." Virel shouted, her wings trembling with fury. "You can chain my body to your throne, but not my heart. I will not marry a human." Her words echoed through the vast hall. The courtiers whispered in panic. Some of the older advisors bowed their heads, knowing the punishment for royal defiance could be severe. The king rose slowly, his cloak dragging behind him. His voice grew sharp and cold. "You speak like a child, Virel. You speak of pride, but pride has already cost us too much. The humans saved us once, now they demand unity. This marriage will end centuries of bloodshed." Virel's jaw tightened. "End bloodshed? Or start new wars, father? You want me to be a symbol of peace, but I see only chains. You treat this alliance like a gift, but they will never see us as equals." The king's eyes burned. "Enough!" he thundered. "You are my daughter, not my general. Your duty is to your people, not your emotions." She stepped closer, her voice trembling but unbroken. "My duty is to truth. And the truth is, humans cannot be trusted. They destroy what they touch. You want me to marry one? I'd rather die." The words struck him like lightning. For a moment, silence returned. No one dared to breathe. Even the banners on the walls seemed to stop moving. The king turned away from her, his hand gripping the edge of the throne. "You shame your bloodline," he said softly. "You shame me." But before he could continue, a sudden crash echoed through the palace doors. A messenger rushed in, kneeling before the king. "Your Majesty, the human envoy has arrived. Captain Elias Drake requests an audience." The timing was cruel, perfect for fate, terrible for peace. The king straightened his crown and spoke through clenched teeth. "Bring him in." The doors opened again. A man stepped forward, tall, calm, dressed in the deep blue of the human fleet. His eyes scanned the hall, taking in the cold stares of alien nobles and the furious glare of a princess who clearly wanted him gone. He bowed deeply. "Your Majesty," he said with steady respect. "It is an honor." Virel's eyes narrowed. She expected arrogance, pride, maybe even fear. But his tone was calm. Human calm, almost too calm for someone surrounded by enemies. The king gestured toward his daughter. "You have met my heir, I presume." Elias looked up, his expression unreadable. "Not yet, Your Majesty. But I have heard much about her courage." Virel's voice cut in sharply. "Then you've heard lies." The room tensed again. The king's anger flared, but Elias only smiled faintly. "Sometimes lies hide the truth better than silence," he said quietly. The princess frowned. She didn't understand what he meant, but his eyes held something strange. Not arrogance, not pity. Something deeper. The king dismissed everyone except his daughter and Elias. "You two will speak privately. he ordered. You have 1 hour. If by then you still refuse, I will make my decision for you. As the guards closed the massive doors behind them, silence filled the chamber once more. Varel turned to face the human, her voice sharp like ice. You think this is some kind of opportunity, don't you? To stand here and charm your way into power. Elias shook his head. No, princess. I think it's a mistake, one neither of us asked for. Her anger faltered for a brief second. You don't want this either. He sighed. I didn't come here for love or power. I came because my people believe peace is still possible, but I can see that maybe we were wrong. For a moment, their eyes met, two souls from opposite worlds, bound by a fate neither desired. Outside, the twin suns began to set, painting the palace in crimson light. The shadows grew long, and so did the silence between them, and deep within the royal walls. Someone unseen watched them through hidden cameras, recording every word. A quiet voice whispered through a communicator. The princess has refused the union. Begin Phase 2. High above the glowing clouds of Zephyra, a lone human ship broke through the planet's thin atmosphere. Its hull was scarred from old battles, its engines whispering like tired soldiers returning from war. Inside, Captain Elias Drake stood by the window, watching the alien world grow larger beneath him. To him, Zephyra looked beautiful, endless oceans of silver, mountains shaped like crystal spires, and cities that glowed like stars fallen from the sky. But beauty meant nothing here. This was not a friendly visit. Approaching royal airspace, his pilot said. They've locked scanners on us. No weapons, but they're watching. Elias gave a slow nod. Let them. We've come in peace, at least that's what they want to believe. Behind him, a holographic display flickered to life. A message from the Human Alliance Command appeared. Your mission, secure peace through marriage. No failure. No emotion, Elias sighed. No emotion. The hardest order of all. He had heard rumors about the Zephyran princess, proud, brilliant, and utterly against any bond with humans. Still, duty was duty. He didn't come for her heart. He came to prevent another war. The ship descended slowly into the royal hangar. Soldiers in dark silver armor waited below, their weapons gleaming. Their insect-like eyes studied every movement as the ramp lowered. The first thing Elias felt when he stepped out was silence. Not welcome. Not hate. Just silence. A royal officer approached, his voice cold. Captain Drake, the king awaits you. Do not speak unless spoken to. Elias only nodded. He had seen this kind of tension before, the silence before a storm. Inside the palace looked like something built from dreams and nightmares. Walls made of living crystal reflected every heartbeat, and every reflection showed suspicion. The king sat on his high throne, surrounded by ministers and guards. The air smelled of incense and judgment. Captain Elias Drake, the king said, his tone sharp. Welcome to Zephyra. You stand before the royal court, under the eyes of those who remember the wars your kind began. Elias bowed deeply. I come not as a soldier, but as a bridge between worlds. Your Majesty. Before the king could respond, another voice spoke, cold, beautiful, and full of quiet fire. She doesn't want your bridge, said Princess Varel, stepping out from behind a pillar. Her gown shimmered like moonlight, but her expression was as fierce as ever. Your people destroyed our moons. You burned our skies. Now you bring peace in a ring? Elias turned to her, meeting her glare with calm eyes. Maybe peace must start with something broken. The court murmured. Even the king tilted his head, a little surprised at the human's courage. Varel stepped closer, wings unfolding slightly in warning. You speak of peace as if you understand us. You don't even understand your own heart. Elias smiled faintly. Maybe not. But I know what war feels like. And I know I don't want it anymore. For the first time, her anger flickered, not gone, just uncertain. The king interrupted, his voice echoing like thunder. Enough of this back and forth. This union will happen for the good of both species. Captain, you will attend tomorrow's ceremony. Princess Virel, you will obey. Her fists clenched. You can force my hand, father, but not my will. The king's patience snapped. Then you are no longer speaking as a daughter, but as a traitor. The court gasped. Elias stepped forward, breaking protocol. Your Majesty, if this union requires force, then it will never bring peace. Guards raised their weapons at him immediately. The king's eyes flared. You forget your place, human. I know my place, Elias said calmly. It's right here, trying to stop another war from starting in your throne room. The king's jaw tightened. He raised a hand to order his removal, but then something unexpected happened. The lights flickered. A strange hum filled the hall. From the balcony above, a ball of energy formed, glowing red, unstable. The guards shouted as it exploded, shaking the chamber. Smoke filled the room. The king shouted orders. Virel stumbled backward, coughing. And through the chaos, Elias grabbed her arm and pulled her away from a collapsing pillar, saving her from certain death. For a few seconds, everything went silent again. The two of them hid behind a broken column, her breathing rapid. His uniform covered in dust. Virel looked at him, truly looked. The human's face was calm, his arm shielding her without hesitation. He could have run. He didn't. When the guards finally cleared the smoke, they found scorch marks on the walls, and a strange sigil burned into the floor. Not human. Not Zephr, that someone else had planned this. The king's voice trembled with anger. Who dares attack the royal court? Virel looked at Elias, suspicion still in her eyes, but something new as well. Something she didn't want to admit. Elias spoke softly. Maybe peace isn't the only thing being tested here. And as soldiers rushed around them, neither of them noticed a shadowed figure slipping away through the smoke, whispering into a hidden communicator. Phase 2 is complete. The princess and the human survived. Just as predicted, the palace still smelled of smoke and fear. The explosion that nearly killed the royal court had left behind more than broken stone. It had left questions no one dared to ask aloud. Outside, the twin suns were hidden behind black clouds. The people whispered of betrayal. Some blamed humans. Others blamed rebels. But one thing was clear. The peace treaty was cracking before it even began. Deep beneath the palace, in the silent halls of the royal archive, Princess Virel walked alone. Her gown was torn, her hair unkempt, her mind racing. She had disobeyed her father's orders to rest. She needed answers, and she knew where to find them. The archives were forbidden to all but the royal bloodline. They held the memories of the empire and its lies. Her hand brushed across glowing walls as they hummed to her touch. Access granted, Princess Virel of House Lumara, said a cold mechanical voice. The gates opened, revealing rows of shimmering data crystals. Thousands of years of history stored in light. She began to search for the day her father signed the human treaty, and then she found it, a file labeled Operation Veil, classified. Her heart pounded. She activated the hologram. A recording appeared, showing her father and several alien generals. Behind them stood a group of humans. Their faces were grim. King Zephyr, the invasion has begun sooner than expected. If the people learn the truth, they will rise in panic. We must hide it, behind a marriage. Human general, then it's agreed. The alliance will be the mask. While they celebrate, our fleets prepare. Virel's eyes widened. No, this can't be true. The hologram flickered again, now showing a map of the galaxy. A dark red wave spreading across dozens of systems. Unknown voice. The enemy species, the Creel Dominion, will attack both our worlds within the decade. We need unity. But we also need control. Virel stepped back, trembling. They didn't want peace. They wanted obedience. Suddenly, a voice echoed from behind. You shouldn't be here, princess. She turned, startled, to see Elias Drake standing in the shadows of the archive entrance. His uniform was scorched, his face weary, but his eyes calm as ever. What are you doing here? She demanded. I could ask you the same, he said quietly, stepping closer. The guards said you were missing. I followed the power readings. I think I just found why. Virel hesitated, then projected the recording again. Elias watched silently as her father's image spoke of secrecy, invasion, and sacrifice. When the hologram faded, neither spoke for a long time. Finally, Elias said, So, this whole marriage, it's not about love or alliance. It's about hiding a war. Virel nodded slowly. And keeping us both blind. Elias rubbed his temples. The Creel Dominion. I've heard rumors about them. Even our fleets fear their name. Virel looked at him, her voice trembling between anger and confusion. My father lied to me. Lied to everyone. He used me as a distraction. He met her eyes. Then maybe it's time you stopped being their distraction and became their weapon. She frowned. What do you mean? Elias stepped forward, lowering his voice. If this war is real, then both our worlds will burn unless someone exposes the truth. You have the bloodline. I have the access codes. Together, we can find the full message and reveal it to the people. Her wings twitched, her pride resisting the idea. You think I'll trust a human so easily? Elias smiled faintly. No, but I think you hate lies more than you hate me. That stopped her. He was right. After a long silence, she finally said, Fine, but this changes nothing between us. Once we find the truth, you leave my world. Elias nodded. Deal. They began working together, retrieving more files, linking the data fragments, connecting events that had been hidden for years. Slowly, the picture became clear. The Creel Dominion wasn't just coming. They were already here, disguised, infiltrating both human and alien worlds through trade routes and politics. Every new piece they uncovered made the air grow colder. Then, the archive lights flickered again, and a voice boomed from the hidden speakers. Unauthorized access detected. Security protocol engaged. The doors sealed shut. Alarms blared. Virel spun toward Elias. They're coming. He drew a small plasma sidearm, scanning for exits. This way. They sprinted through the narrow corridors as heavy boots echoed behind them. Royal guards flooded the halls, but these weren't ordinary soldiers. Their armor was marked with the sigil she'd seen burned into the throne room floor after the explosion. Her eyes widened. Those aren't my father's men. Elias fired a warning shot, melting the floor between them and the pursuers. Then who the hell are they? Before she could answer, a blast hit the ceiling. The world spun, and everything went dark. When Virel opened her eyes again, she was lying in a strange transport vessel. The floor vibrated beneath her. Elias sat nearby, bruised but alive. Outside the small window, the palace was shrinking, disappearing into the distance. Where are we? She asked weakly. Elias looked at her, grim and quiet. Far from your father's reach, and closer to the truth than either of us wanted. Through the window, the stars stretched into endless light as the ship jumped into hyperspace. Somewhere behind them, the king received a message from the same hidden faction that triggered the explosion. The princess is gone. The human, too. Phase 3 has begun. The king's hand trembled. What have I done? Cold stars drifted outside the small ship like silent witnesses. The hum of the engines was the only sound in the cabin. Princess Virel sat beside a narrow viewport, staring at the endless dark. Her once silver gown was stained with dust, her crown gone, her hands trembling. She was no longer a royal heir, just a fugitive running from her own blood. Across from her, Elias Drake adjusted the ship's controls. The faint blue light painted his face in shades of calm determination. Neither of them had spoken much since the escape. Silence had become their uneasy peace. Finally, Virel broke it. "Do you even know where you're taking us?" Elias didn't look up. "To the outer colonies. There's a station there, neutral ground. If the King's network is tracking us, it'll take them days to find the signal." She crossed her arms. "You sound confident." He gave a dry smile. "I'm not. But pretending helps." She looked away. Pretending. Something humans seem to do well. He chuckled quietly. "And what about you, Princess? You've lived your whole life pretending too. Pretending your world was perfect." Her wings twitched slightly. "Watch your tone." He glanced at her, unafraid. "I'm watching it, carefully." For a moment, they both smiled, the first time since the chaos began. But then the ship's console blinked red. "Incoming transmission." Encrypted. Elias frowned and pressed the comms button. "This channel should be dead." "Who's calling us?" A holographic projection appeared in front of them, a young Zephyrin guard. Breathing hard, his armor cracked and scorched. "Princess Virel." "Thank the stars you're alive," he cried. "It's me, Commander Kale. Your father's forces have been overtaken. Those soldiers who attacked the palace. They weren't ours. They're part of something else." Virel leaned closer. "Kale, you served me for years. Why would I trust this transmission?" Kale nodded urgently. "Because I was there. I saw them take control. They've silenced the king, replaced his advisors, and they're hunting both of you. Please, come to Outpost 9. It's still loyal to the crown. I can keep you safe." The hologram flickered again, then vanished. Elias looked at her. "Well, that sounds convenient." Virel's eyes narrowed. "Kale has been loyal since I was a child. He protected me when my own cousins tried to poison the throne. If he says the palace has fallen, I must see for myself." Elias sighed. "Or it's a trap." She turned toward him, her tone sharp. "You think everything is a trap?" He leaned back in his chair. "That's why I'm still alive." For a moment, their eyes locked. Neither backed down. Finally, Elias gave in. "Fine, we'll go to your outpost. But we do it my way, quiet, low altitude, scatters on full." Virel nodded. "Agreed." Arrival at Outpost 9. The outpost was hidden on the edge of a dying moon. Its towers were half buried under rock. Its lights faint but steady. As they landed, a group of guards met them. Kale stood at the front, his armor patched, his face lined with exhaustion. When Virel stepped off the ramp, Kale bowed deeply. "Your Highness, I feared you were lost." She placed a hand on his shoulder. "You've done well, Kale. My father," he shook his head quickly. "The king lives, but he's under house arrest. The council blames the humans for the explosion. They plan to end the alliance and declare war." Elias's jaw tightened. "Of course they do." Virel's wings flared slightly. "Then we must show them the truth, the recordings, the files we found in the archive." Kale nodded slowly. "Yes, Princess. You must show me everything, so I can protect it." He gestured to his soldiers. "Take the human to the guest chamber. Make sure he's comfortable." Elias's instincts twitched. The way Kale said "comfortable" didn't sound safe. But he followed quietly, his hand brushing the hidden knife on his belt. The trap unfolds hours later. Virel walked into the command room with a data crystal, the same one that held her father's secret conversation. Kale stood by the projector, waiting. "I trust you," she said softly. But this information could destroy the throne. Kale nodded, his voice calm. That's why we must keep it safe. She inserted the crystal. The hologram flickered to life, but before the message could play, Kale pressed a small button on his wristplate. The lights dimmed. The doors sealed. Virell froze. Kale, what are you doing? His voice changed, colder, metallic. I'm finishing what your father started. The Creel Dominion doesn't want peace. They want control. And I have already chosen my side. The symbol of the Creel burned onto his armor, glowing red. Guards stepped out from the shadows, weapons raised. Virell's heart pounded. You betrayed Zephyra. Kale smiled darkly. No, princess. I saved it. The age of your kind is over. The Dominion rewards loyalty. She reached for her communicator. Elias, it's a trap. Before she could finish, Kale struck her across the face, sending her crashing to the floor. He leaned close. The human will die first. You'll watch. Elias's escape in the lower cells. Elias had already sensed trouble. The guards' behavior, the silence, the locked doors, it all screamed one word: betrayal. When he heard Virell's cry echo faintly through the cum, he acted fast. A swift kick, a stolen key, a broken restraint, and the soldier guarding him hit the ground. Elias grabbed his plasma pistol and sprinted. Through the corridors, he reached the command room just as Kale aimed his blaster at Virell. Single shot rang out, not Kale's. Elias fired first. Kale fell backward, clutching his chest, his armor burning. His last words hissed like smoke. You can't stop what's coming. She was never meant to live. Elias turned to Virell, helping her up. You all right? She nodded weakly. Yes. But if he was working for the Creel, then they're already here. Elias looked at the blood-red symbol flickering on Kale's armor. His eyes hardened. Then it's time we stop running, he said. It's time we fight back. Outside the outpost window, the stars shimmered, and in the distance, something moved. A fleet, massive, silent, waiting. The night sky over Zephyra was no longer blue. It burned crimson, a reflection of the chaos below. Cities that once glowed with silver towers now smoked with ash. The royal banners had been torn down, replaced by the blood-red sigil of the Creel Dominion. Inside the shattered palace, the great throne room, once the pride of a 1,000-year dynasty, lay in ruins. The king of Zephyra sat on his throne. His once glorious armor cracked, his golden wings dimmed. Around him stood the Dominion soldiers, silent, masked. And merciless. At the center of the room stood High Commander Drax, the Creel emissary, his black armor gleaming. You lost the loyalty of your people. Your Majesty, Drax said in his cold, mechanical tone. But the Dominion offers mercy. Surrender your daughter, and your crown remains. The king's eyes burned with fury. My daughter is gone. You'll never touch her. Drax smiled faintly. Then your throne burns with you. He raised his arm, and the plasma blade extended with a hiss. Before he could strike, a blinding explosion shook the chamber. The palace doors blasted open, throwing Dominion guards to the ground. Through the smoke, a small ship hovered, scarred, old, human. Built. From it stepped Elias Drake. Blaster in hand, his armor scorched but his eyes sharp. And behind him, wings spread and defiant, stood Princess Virell, her eyes glowing with both grief and rage. Gasps rippled through the hall. The king struggled to stand. Virell. My daughter? She ran forward, catching his hand before he fell. Father, I came back. Drax turned toward them, his mechanical voice calm. How touching. The runaway returns with her pet human. Elias raised his weapon. Funny, your pets bleed just like mine. The battle erupted in an instant. Blaster fire lit up the hall. The air filled with screams and smoke. Elias moved like lightning, shooting, diving, rolling. Each shot found its mark. Virel summoned her energy field, a shimmering barrier of light that protected her father. But her strength was fading fast. "Get him out of here," Elias shouted, blocking 2 incoming bolts. "I won't leave without you." She cried, "You will if you want to live." The king struggled to his feet, his hand gripping hers weakly. "Go, my child. Your time is not yet done." A massive explosion tore through the ceiling. Flames rained down. The great throne, symbol of Zephyr power, cracked apart. Drax advanced through the fire, blade glowing red. "You cannot win, human." Elias smirked through the smoke. "That's what everyone says. Right before I prove them wrong." They clashed, metal against plasma, strength against will. Drax swung hard, slicing through Elias's armor. Blood splashed across the marble floor. Elias fell to one knee but fired point blank into Drax's chest. The shot tore through armor, but not deep enough. Drax roared, lifting Elias by the throat. "You fight like a beast, but you are nothing." Virel screamed and hurled a shockwave of energy. The blast sent Drax crashing into the throne, shattering what remained of it. Elias gasped for breath, his vision spinning. "Remind me not to argue with you again." She smiled weakly. "Noted." The king looked at the burning walls. "Go, now. The palace is lost." But before they could move, Drax rose again, smoke curling from his armor. His eyes burned with fury. "You think this ends with me?" He hissed. "The Dominion is already here. Your world is ours." Elias fired one last time, straight into the reactor core above the throne. The entire room exploded in white light. Escape. From the ruins, the next thing Virel remembered was silence. Then pain. She opened her eyes to find herself lying inside the small ship again. Flames roared outside as the palace crumbled behind them. Elias sat in the pilot's seat, barely conscious, blood running down his arm. "Elias," she whispered. "You saved us." He smiled faintly. "Don't thank me yet. We're still in orbit, and that fleet's getting bigger." She turned to the window. Above Zephyr's atmosphere, hundreds of Creel ships had appeared, blotting out the stars. "They'll burn everything," she said softly. "My world. My people." Elias looked at her. "Then let's make sure they don't win." He pressed a switch, revealing a hidden compartment in the ship. Inside was the Zephyr core crystal, glowing with intense blue light. Virel gasped. "That's the heart of your world," Elias said. "Kale tried to destroy it, but I pulled it before he could." She stared at it, the energy pulsing like a living soul. "If this falls into the Dominion's hands..." He nodded. "Then the entire galaxy burns." She clenched her fists, wings trembling. "Then we fight, together." Elias smiled, even through his pain. "That's the spirit, princess." As the ship ascended into the star-filled sky, the palace below collapsed into fire. The throne of Zephyr was gone, but something stronger had been born in its ashes. A bond between alien royalty and human courage, something no empire could destroy. The stars looked different out here, colder, sharper, and endless. Elias's ship drifted through the black void beyond the Zephyr system, its hull still scarred from battle. Inside, silence filled the cabin, broken only by the steady hum of the engines. Princess Virel sat near the viewport, her reflection faint in the glass. She had changed, the royal silk replaced by a simple flight suit, her crown gone, her wings folded close. Elias watched her from the pilot's seat. "You haven't said a word in hours." She didn't turn. "My people are dying, Elias. My father, my world. All gone because I ran." He leaned back in his chair, voice quiet but steady. "You didn't run. You survived. There's a difference." Her eyes glimmered in the faint starlight. "Surviving means nothing if I can't save what's left." He nodded. Then we find a way, together. Before she could respond, the ship's radar beeped, a soft rhythmic pulse. Unknown signature. Elias frowned. That's impossible. There's nothing out here. The console flickered, and a coded message appeared. Human transmission. Access code required. Virel turned sharply. Human transmission? Out here? Elias hesitated, then entered a code. For a moment, the screen went black. Then, a voice crackled through, calm, deep, unmistakably human. Captain Elias Drake, this is Admiral Kepler of the Shadow Fleet. Welcome home, son. Hours later, the ship slipped through a field of distorted light. The stars bent, shimmered, and then like a curtain lifting, an entire armada appeared. Massive dreadnoughts floated in silence, cloaked in electromagnetic shadow. Each bore the insignia of the Human Defense Command, long thought destroyed after the Great Collapse. Virel's eyes widened. How is this possible? Elias smiled faintly. They were ghosts, hidden for years, waiting. Docking lights guided their ship toward a colossal carrier. When they landed, soldiers lined the hangar, humans in dark blue armor, their faces hard but respectful. Admiral Kepler, a tall man with a scar across his face, stepped forward. Drake, you've been gone a long time. Elias saluted. Wasn't exactly a vacation, sir. Kepler's gaze shifted to Virel. And you brought company. Virel straightened, meeting his eyes. Princess Virel of Zephyra. My people were betrayed. The Creel Dominion has taken our world. Kepler nodded grimly. We know. We've been intercepting their transmissions. The Dominion's moving faster than we predicted. He turned to Elias. You saw it firsthand? Elias nodded. They don't want conquest, sir. They want extinction. They're targeting hybrid DNA, any world where humans and aliens cooperated. They call it cleansing the code. A murmur spread through the officers nearby. Kepler's jaw tightened. Then it's worse than we feared. He motioned toward a large holographic table. There's something you both need to see. The secret of the core. The secret of the Korea massive 3D map of the galaxy flickered to life. Red zones marked Dominion control. Only a few small clusters glowed blue. Remnants of free space. At the center of the display was the Zephyrin core. Crystal, the one Elias had rescued. Kepler pointed to it. That crystal isn't just a power source. It's a key to an ancient energy grid built by the first sentient species in the galaxy. If the Dominion unlocks it, they'll control every system's life field. They could drain entire planets in hours. Virel's eyes widened. Then we can't let them reach it. Kepler looked at her. You're the only one who can stop it, Princess. Your genetic code matches the core's original resonance. You can unlock or destroy. She stared at the glowing hologram. If I destroy it, my world dies forever. Elias stepped closer. If you don't, every world dies. The silence hung heavy. Finally, she nodded. Then we destroy it. Kepler turned to his officers. Prepare the fleet. We move at dawn. Moments before the storm that night, Elias stood alone on the observation deck. Watching the stars, he heard footsteps, soft, deliberate. Virel joined him, her wings faintly glowing in the dim light. You still think we can win? She asked quietly. He smiled. I don't think. I hope. It's the only thing I've got left. She looked at him for a long moment. Humans are strange. You fight even when you know you'll lose. He met her gaze. That's why we win. She smiled faintly, but sadness lingered in her eyes. When this ends, if I don't make it. He interrupted gently. You will. She took a step closer. And if I don't? He hesitated, then reached out, his hand brushing hers. Then I'll make sure your people remember who saved them. Their eyes met, and for a brief, fragile moment, the war outside didn't exist. But then the alarm broke the silence, a sharp, urgent tone. Incoming warp signature. Multiple contacts. The stars outside flickered, and hundreds of red lights appeared on the radar. The Dominion had found them. Kepler's voice thundered over the comms. All hands to battle stations. The Shadow Fleet is under attack. Elias turned to Virel, his jaw set. Looks like dawn came early. Virel spread her wings, her eyes glowing like twin stars. Then let's make sure they remember our light. The Shadow Fleet, humanity's last secret army, floated like a wall of light between the stars. Thousands of ships stood ready, their cannons locked onto the endless swarm of Creel Dominion warships, emerging from hyperspace. At the center of the human formation, the Zephyrin Princess's ship, the Radiant Hawk, gleamed with a faint blue aura. Inside, Elias Drake stood at the command deck beside Princess Virel, both gazing at the battlefield ahead. The comms crackled to life. Admiral Kepler's voice boomed through every channel. All hands, this is it. The Dominion thinks they can erase humanity from history. Let's remind them who writes the stories. The fleet erupted in cheers. Virel looked at Elias, her voice low. There are too many of them. Elias smirked. Yeah, but we're humans. We don't count odds, we make them. Her wings shimmered softly. You're insane. He winked. You're welcome. Outside, the stars turned to fire as the Dominion unleashed its first wave. The battle begins. Void erupted. Human dreadnoughts opened fire, their plasma cannons tearing through the first Creel cruisers. Blue streaks of energy lit the blackness like a storm of lightning. Zephyrin support ships followed, forming shields of radiant energy around the fleet. Their glowing wings pulsed in harmony, humans and aliens, fighting together for the first time in history. Elias gripped the controls, flying the Radiant Hawk straight through the chaos. Target their command frigate. The ship dove, weaving between explosions and debris. Virel activated the ship's core crystal. Its blue glow intensified, spreading through the hull like veins of light. Energy shield online. But it won't hold for long. Long's all we need, Elias said through gritted teeth. They broke formation and raced toward the heart of the Dominion fleet, where the colossal Creel flagship awaited. Its hull black and crimson, shaped like a blade slicing through the void. A deep, mechanical voice thundered across every frequency. Humans, Zephyrins, your defiance ends here. Virel froze. That voice. It's Drax. Elias narrowed his eyes. Didn't we kill that guy? Her expression darkened. The Creel don't die easily. The enemy flagship's main cannon began to charge, a dark sphere growing at its core. The light swallowed everything. Kepler's voice cut through the comm. They're targeting our center. We'll be vaporized. Elias slammed a button. Then we hit them first. He turned to Virel. The core, it's tied to you. Can you channel it? Her wings glowed brighter, the light burning blue-white. Yes, but it will drain me. Then we drain together, he said with a grin. The power within Virel stepped into the center of the ship's chamber, placing her hands on the crystal. The energy surged, wild, ancient, alive. Visions flashed in her mind. Her father. The burning throne, Elias's blood on her hands. And the voice of Kale whispering, she was never meant to live. Her heart pounded. No, she whispered. I was meant to fight. Light burst from her wings, flooding the ship. The Radiant Hawk glowed like a star reborn. Elias shouted over the roar. Now, Princess! Give them hell! She unleashed the energy, a beam of pure light that tore through space, cutting straight into the Dominion flagship. The explosion that followed was blinding, but the victory was short-lived. The blast wave hit them like a hammer. Alarms screamed. Sparks flew across the cockpit. Elias struggled to keep control. We're losing altitude. Virel collapsed to her knees, drained and shaking. The core. It's overloading. He reached her side, holding her up. Stay with me, Virel. We're not done yet. Her voice was weak but steady. If the core explodes, it'll destroy both fleets. Elias's eyes hardened. Then I'll take it away from here. She gripped his arm. You can't. He smiled softly. You said I was insane, remember? Before she could stop him, he lifted her into the escape pod and sealed the door. Her fists pounded against the glass. Elias, don't you dare. He pressed a hand to the window. You gave me something to fight for. Now let me finish it. The human's choice, the radiant hawk rose through the fire, its engines burning at full power. The overloaded crystal pulsed like a dying heart. Elias steered it directly toward the Creel command cluster. His voice cracked over the coms. Kepler, get them out of here. Drake, what are you? Just tell them. The human kept his promise. The light filled the screen, then silence. Aftermath hours later, the battle ended. The Creel fleet gone. Only fragments drifted among the stars. The Shadow fleet limped through the wreckage, its survivors in stunned silence. Inside a recovery ship, Virel stood at the viewport, eyes red, voice quiet. He did it. He really did it. Kepler approached slowly. He saved us all. And he gave humanity a legend they'll never forget. She held the small, glowing shard of the shattered core. The last piece Elias had touched. Her voice trembled. He said humans make their own odds, maybe. He was right. Outside, the first rays of a new dawn touched. Zephyrs burned horizon. The war was over. But the story, the bond between a human and an alien princess, would echo through galaxies for generations. Epilogue 1 year later in a quiet valley on New Zephyra, under twin suns, a statue stood. A man in battle armor, holding a crystal high toward the stars dot at its base. The inscription read, Elias Drake, the human who lit the darkness. And beside it, every year the princess came, her wings folded. Her eyes filled with light. She would whisper softly to the wind, You kept your promise. Elias, now I'll keep mine. She looked to the stars, where a faint blue glow shimmered in the distance. Some said it was just a reflection. Others swore it was him.